Hi everybody, Tom here from CSI. I'm getting a lot of questions and I want to see if I can clear up a few things. One being the label. You're going to notice that we've added some verbiage, original single product polish. We started the single product polishing market. So I wanted to get that on the label, make sure everybody knows and understand that we were the very first company to say you can do all polishing with one single product. You don't need to use a compound to polish and glaze. You can use just a polish. The next is new and improved. Now, if you've bought product and you still have the old label within the last month, it's the same product, okay? So I think you've heard, we've started a manufacturing company. We run the manufacturing now of our products. All of the product being generated has the CSI logo on the bottom. And you can rest assured it's all being made here, whether it's got the new label or not. All the labels will eventually change to this label, but we're just getting packaging up to speed on where we are. So that is the questions answered on the label. And did we change the formula? No way. We just went back to the tried and tested process of how to properly make the CSI emulsion so that you can have the best finish ever. So I hope that answers every question regarding the label. One of the next questions that I get asked all the time is, Tom, how in the world did you get into making polish? That's a good question. I grew up in this trade. My dad had a body shop. When my brother and I were young, it was just a place to play. Go to my dad's shop and we were going to play, getting into things we probably shouldn't have gotten into. And it was fun. It was just a fun place to hang out with my dad. And slowly but surely, and it never happened fast enough, but I was young. I mean, probably 10 years old when we were hanging out, cleaning the bathroom or, doing the things my dad wanted me and my brother to do. Maybe once in a while we got to sand on a car. But slowly but surely, we would get our hands dirty and start to buff cars. And I was probably 13, 14 years old when I was pretty serious about buffing cars. We were using Super Duty compound and liquid ebony to finish, and maybe some of you old timers like me, you remember that process. We thought it worked, but did it? I don't know. I don't know. I got in a lot of trouble with burning the edges. We only had 600 grit sandpaper, and then we had a giant Sioux buffer with no variable trigger. So it was on off. It was like using a grinder on a car with no variable speed and a wool pad and Super Duty trying to take out a 600 grit scratch. What do you think happened? A mess, especially with a young kid grabbing that big giant heavy buffer trying to buff on a lacquer paint job or acrylic enamel paint job. We burned through all the time. Me, probably more than my brother, I couldn't not get the hang of it. Absolutely could not. And it stunk. I mean, the compound was stinky and it burned my skin. It just was nasty. So that was me getting into the trade. And years later, I would start my own shop when I was 20 years old, moved to California and start my own shop at 20 years old. And it became successful. I got a lucky contract with a guy named Gary Hall, and we had the Pantera contract for this whole Southern California area. Actually, we did Panteras for all over the world. Gary parked a lot of Panteras in my shop, and slowly but surely, I would learn how to work on Panteras. Still using Super Duty and getting in trouble, burning cars and, pulling my hair out. Now I'm older. Now I'm understanding what I'm doing, but still having trouble. So I would call in the reps and they would come in and tell me that I'm obviously doing something totally wrong At that time, maybe we were using, oh yeah, I know what the next jump in sandpaper was, because we went from 600 grit sandpaper to ultra fine. It didn't even have a number on it. So we would ask them, what number is this? And I remember the reps telling me it's 800 grit. How did they know? They didn't know. It wasn't 800 grit. It might have been 1,000. It might have been 1,200. Who knows? But it definitely did not have a number on it. And again, Super Duty, trying to take out that sand scratch and burning the paint and so on and so forth. It was a nightmare. So probably 20 years into having my shop, I'm like, you know what? There has to be another way. And I believe that God opened a door. It's frustrated. Guys are burning cars. I'm not understanding why. And these aren't inexpensive cars. These are expensive cars. And my customers are mad at me. I have to repaint sections on cars. And it was very, very frustrating. Well, I would see a process for polishing eyeglasses like these, and they only used one single product. They grind the lens, put it in a machine, and out comes a perfect lens. That would put me in a place to start what I thought would be an easy business. And it was by far not easy. We would come out with a company, a product line called System 1, and it did actually well. After a couple of years of getting it on the market, we pushed it out there, and we were selling it globally against all the big boys, and surprisingly did well because we had great distribution on the product line. So how I got into this, being a body shop guy, I knew nothing about making anything. I didn't cook. I wasn't the cook in the house. I didn't cook hardly anything. I mean, I ran a body shop. What do I know about cooking anything or making anything? But I did want to learn. So I would go to Cal Poly Pomona, and they would get behind us and help me with the development of System 1. Now, through this process, and this is called, well, it's a big, long technical word there, but we use an atomic force microscopy microscope to do all the scans on the surface. And this is what it looks like. This is what those scans look like. It scales the structure of the substrate down to an atomic level. And I asked the chemist what level it was taking it to, and I believe she said 6 atoms. So this is System 1 comparison and durability studies. This is how they quantify why this formula is working like it's working. Roughness in a nutshell. This is a 78-page document that we paid Cal Poly to write and determine why we were getting the results against Frekla and 3M at the time. One single product to do all polishing, to take the place of all compound, polish, and glaze. So all of these represent something in the study on pressure, heat, and lots of other determining factors that these scientists could then write down and then try to explain to me, which would be hard because I never went to college, so I didn't know how to look through a microscope and see, oh yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted to see no swirl marks. And we, with that company, were capable of polishing paint to a perfect level with one single product. So I want to explain point by point the procedures that I did on a 4-minute video that I posted on YouTube called Learn to Buff and Polish in 4 minutes. When I go in and do my demos all over the country, I only have minutes to really explain that we're different than everything they've ever seen. Most body shop owners are like, oh man, another wax and polish company coming in. You guys are all the same. I am going to have problem after problem after problem if I switch. So I'm just going to stay with 3M. And I have to tell them as I stick my foot in the door that we are nothing like 3M. That we guarantee these results every single time. And what I'm doing on my van is pushing the envelope in every way, shape, and form to show anybody that's watching that if you put some controls into color sanding and polishing, your results are going to be easier than what I'm doing right here in this video. So let's start the video. I walk up to my van. Now, I painted out these sections on the van so that I could go into shops and do buffing. I taped off a 12 by 12 section, and I am color sanding that section with 1200 grit Sunmite sandpaper. Yes, I'm not using a block. I am finger sanding. I'm digging in deep, and guess what? We're doing this in direct sun. It's an 80-degree day, surface temperature of 100 degrees. Would you want to buff in that condition? I would say no. But watch what happens as we go through the process on polishing this surface. I'm digging into the corners. There's some orange peel here, and I'm sanding, all the way around the tape line. We're going to wipe it off with some water. Now we're going to just clean it. I'm showing that it's 1200 grit sandpaper. You can see it vapor trail. It's drying up really nice and fast. You can see the piece of dirt right there in the middle. And we got a little orange peel over there. Digging all that out. Wiping it all off, just so I'm not fighting orange peel when I start to polish. Okay, now untape everything. Rip off all the tape so we're not buffing the tape into the paint. This paint is 3 to 4 months old. Put the product on the pad. That is ceramics polish, 62203. Now watch how fast a 1200 grit scratch comes out. It's really unbelievable. You don't have to use compound anymore. One single product to take out all of your scratches, wipe it off. It's not greasy. There's no smudge mark. Now put some more product on there. You can see it's not splattering all over the place. The product stays in the pad. It gels to the pad. But because of the way it's made with water, it stays in the pad without causing a bunch of dusting issues and just a mess that, we've all fought with compound. Okay? Now we'll wipe it off, make sure it's clean. Yes, we have a swirl mark from the wool pad and the product, but I'm looking for straight line scratches, making sure that there's no straight line scratches. Now we're going to use the 5-inch pad on a Flex 15 millimeter battery powered DA, random orbit, or DA. See how nice and wet the product stays? Only a couple drops. Going over the surface. There's no splatter. There's no mess anywhere. Keep some pressure on the surface while you're removing the swirl marks. Now start to back off your pressure. As you back off your pressure with the DA, you're going to get a lighter mark on the surface. Wipe it off with a rag. It looks really good. Make sure it's nice and clean. Now we're going to dig in close. I'm showing the sun in the background there. We're in direct sun, we're outside in front of our shop, and that is a black metallic paint polished with one single product. So now we get to the end of the video. One product polishing. We are the fastest way to polish paint. Then it goes on and you see the CSI logo and the KISS. Keep it simple. The messaging is very, very simple. And it has to be simple to this side of the trade. One, you've got entry-level techs coming into a pretty complicated trade, and you are asking for absolute perfection in polishing paint. So we hope that CSI is your answer. And if you have any questions, if I can help you in any way, maybe coming up with an SOP that works with the type of paint that you work with, and we have tested with most all paint manufacturers that are out there promoting their paint line right now. I've been doing this since 1996. Some of that time I had a body shop. I was fully sponsored by Spieshecker at the time, and we had a good paint line. We had a great paint line, go on to win many awards with that paint line. So I understand paint to the degree of using it and having, you know, a flawless finish, as well as I think anybody could. And I want to help you to have the exact same finish on all the work that you're doing. So my name's Tom Horvath. My phone number that you can call me anytime is 714-906-6619. Tom out from CSI. Thanks for listening.